Hey everyone, how you doing? Lee Stranahan, nice to see you. I'm the founder of Citizen Journalism School, citizenjournalismschool.com. And I want to talk to you tonight. We're about a week into the Russian-Ukrainian war, and there's a lot of information and disinformation and misinformation and a lot of censorship at this point going on in every which way. RT and Sputnik have been banned in Europe. Russia, in turn, has banned Radio Echo and another station over there. And I don't think that helps anything. I'm going to talk about censorship in a second. But right now, I just want to make you smarter about evaluating claims. And this is something that can take a complex story and I think make it a lot easier to understand. So let me explain. And let me explain also why I think being able to evaluate claims simplifies the story. So let's take this war that's going on right now. Fairly complex, right? You want to be able to evaluate the claims on both sides. In other words, let's say I'm going to say what the United States is saying about it on one side, even though it's a Ukrainian war, and what Russia is saying about it. And what you're going to see is that sometimes simply naming the claims clarifies a lot in the story for you. Okay? So we have two competing sets of claims, let's say, as to why Russia invaded, why Russia went into Ukraine. Okay? And this is, let me get back to the point I made before. This is why censorship is so bad. And let me point out before I get into evaluating just naming, I'm not even going to say whether they're right or wrong. You don't even have to go that far sometimes. Just naming the claims properly can be very helpful. And you'll see why in this case in a second. But let me talk about a common logical fallacy that happens all the time. And it's called a straw man or a red herring or misstating your opponent's position. It's very common, and it's a trick that people do. So let's say we have claim A and claim B. Let's say in this case, claim A is what the United States is saying, and claim B is what Russia's saying. Now, if you're, let's say, against Russia, you can misstate their claim. You cannot say what they're saying. You can fill in your own thing, a straw man. And once you do that, that's now claim C. And it's confusing, and it's why censorship is bad. Because when I look at things, I want to hear not what this side says that side is saying, but what that side says they're saying. Does that make sense? And in this specific case, let's break it down a little bit further. The United States is saying in this case that this was an unprovoked attack, that Russia went in for no reason at all, completely unprovoked. Now, Russia is saying that they went in because the Donbass is being bombed for 8 years. So what I'm saying is just stating the claims, we already see a problem. Now, we'd have to go through and see if Russia's claim is true. Has the Donbass been being bombed for 8 years? Is that accurate? I'm not getting to that part yet. But I'm saying the first claim from the United States is that that claim doesn't exist. The United States claim is that there's literally no reason. The United States is not making the claim, well, Russia's saying it's because of the Donbass, but we don't think that's sufficient reason to invade Ukraine. They're literally saying it's an unprovoked attack. And I think that tells you something, because there's literally no argument on the United States side. They're not even trying to respond to what Russia said. So before we even get to whether it's true or not, they're also not saying that's not true. Donbass has not been bombed. one claim is this is why we're going in. The other one is they don't have a reason. And just stating those claims clearly, and by the way, could I show you that that's the U.S. claim? Yes. You could research it yourself. I'm not going to show you now. But it's easy to research. Joe Biden calling this an unprovoked attack. At no point did the U.S. address what Russia's saying. And if we go to Putin's speech, and this is why censorship is bad, I don't want to hear what Russia's saying about what the U.S. is saying. I want to hear what the U.S. says about what the U.S. is saying. And I want to hear what Russia says about Russia's saying. And then I can evaluate it. But starting by just naming the claims clearly, this side is saying this side is saying that, is often very helpful. Because you can see that sometimes one side literally doesn't even try to make the case. I gave an example of this straw man or red herring thing before. Now, if we ask a further question, why is the Donbass being bombed? One of the claims that Russia's making is that Nazis are responsible for that. They're saying they want to denazify the area. And let's evaluate that claim. Here's how we do it. The straw man that's coming up right now is, well, are you saying Zelensky's a Nazi, the president of Ukraine? That's not their claim. They're not claiming because Zelensky is a Nazi, the Donbass is being bombed. They're saying after 2014, where there was a coup, so that needs to be evaluated. That's one claim. There was a coup in 2014. The U.S. doesn't address that either. They never say, no, there wasn't a coup, or we weren't involved in it. They just ignore it. And literally, this is true. Go look for it. Sometimes when you're looking for these competing claims, you won't find one. So Russia's saying there was a coup in 2014, and that coup gave Nazi elements power that they didn't have previously to 2014. And as an example of that, there's a group called the Azov, A-Z-O-V battalion, that was formed in 2014. Now, every one of these claims, you don't just take anybody's word on it, but you can look it up. But again, the counterclaim is to pretend that the first claim doesn't exist. They don't say the Azov battalion is not Nazi. They switch to a straw man argument. Oh, are you saying Zelensky's a Nazi? No, they're not saying that. They're saying the Azov battalion, which is part of the Ukrainian military, is Nazi. And you'll see that not just reported by Russian media, but Time magazine and other. Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, said it in front of Congress a couple of years ago. It's very clear what's going on with that. But the claim itself is not up against a counterclaim that the Azov battalion is not Nazi. They simply don't address it. So hopefully you're starting to see the evaluated process. Look for claim versus counterclaim. And you want to be able to state both sides' claims as clearly and honestly as possible. And the reason censorship is bad, to tie it back in, then I'll finish this up, is that when you can't hear directly from one side, I want to hear Russia's side directly from Russia. I want to hear the U.S. side directly from the U.S. That's why I think Russia retaliating with censorship is a bad move, because I think they should want people to hear both sides. But, you know, again, my country's doing it too. So there you go. I'm not thrilled either way. I don't think it's a good move either way. But the reason it's important is because often one side will lie about the other side's claims. They'll do that straw man thing. So if in anything, and this is why I always urge people, read news sources you don't agree with. They're very helpful. That thing about Zelensky being Jewish, so he can't be a Nazi, came from George Stephanopoulos. Now, this is why I don't respect George Stephanopoulos as a journalist, is because he's making a straw man. Are you saying Zelensky's a Nazi? No. It's not a real question. You follow me? He's not trying to get to the heart. He's not addressing their claim. This is where that claim C comes in. Rather than addressing the claim, are you saying that here's another example. Let's say Zelensky had shut down the Azov battalion in eastern Ukraine. That would be a good argument that there were Nazis, but Zelensky shut them down. But no one's saying that because that never happened. That didn't happen at all. But again, it's not about a conclusion. It's about how to reach the right conclusion in a complex story. Make sure you're addressing the claims and the counterclaims from the standpoint of the people making the arguments. And watch out for dishonest straw man versions of claims that one side may make about the other side. So there you go. Hopefully that makes you a little bit smarter. I'm Lee Stranahan, citizenjournalismschool.com. Have a nice night.